If none, then any question? Okay, so these are the lecture today. Accrual accounting in public sector and the Malaysian public sector in general. So Malaysia is a case. I always say Malaysia is a case, because we have international students. And the adoption of accrual accounting is across the globe, because same standard been adopted. Unlike if the country has such a developed accounting standards, okay, like in the US, but because they have GSB, so maybe they do more harmonization in terms of accrual accounting. For countries they yet to adopt accrual, then they have IPSAS, okay, as a choice to as international standards. I think the standard setters of the country, okay, let's say in the case of Malaysia, they are very particular in complying with the international standards. Okay, I think for the reason, okay, obviously I think to standardize, it's not easy to change or to be different than the international community, because it can get questions. I think on top of that is about confidence of the system, of the accounting system in the country. So these are some of the issues that is an area of concern by the standard setters. Okay, particularly in this case of in Malaysia, public sector, accounting standard is by the AG, Accountants General Department. Okay, and that's why I think if you develop it, we try to be in line. Not if there is changes or modification because of the uniqueness of certain government agencies, then really have to take into account what is there in the international accounting standards before certain level of or additional good practice. Just like in the UK, isn't it? So SOP, right? It's a recommended practice, right? If the current standard, there is gap in the current standard to address because there are certain unique entities not yet addressed by the accounting standards, or some type of transactions which is unique in the certain, it's just not common across the globe. Okay, so they may need additional standards to standardize the reporting. Okay, you get your copy, isn't it, for this slide from your GC? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll cover accrual for transparency, IPSAS and PSAS, and then accounting in Malaysian public sector. Also in this discussion, we discuss on transition issues. Okay, and second part of this lecture is the selected PSAS. Okay, so I think for this class, it's just maybe for the PSAS 1, and then the rest will be in the following class. Okay, could accrual accounting lead to greater transparency and accountability of public sector? Okay, so I think the benefit of transparency is recognized. It will lead to efficiency, okay, and lead to reducing in waste, corruption, okay, to a certain extent. I mean, in one argument, but I think at least it's a best practice. In terms of, I think in terms of for accounting perspective, okay, accrual is the best practice in accounting. I think it's been general consensus globally. Okay, to represent the use of resources and to report on the results. And only that is the government in terms of results is a bit limited, okay, because the results, okay, the collection of tax, they are not like revenue as you understood in the case of profit-making organizations, okay. But take note of these differences because of okay, how you can going to evaluate all these organizations. Okay, and I think or maybe the easiest one to understand this is basically accrual managed to account full cost, much better than cash base. Okay, cash base, because cash base just focusing the total cost is based on total payments. Okay, whereas in the case of accrual, okay, they can manage the timing of the recognitions as well as the recognition of full costs. Okay, so full cost is because they are representing the entire resources. So if you talk about efficiency, for instance, so it's basically you need to account for the full cost. Otherwise, if only part of the cost being accounted, so it means that you understate, okay, the cost of producing or providing certain services, then it may be definitely misleading. Okay, so of course our discussion is relative in nature. But the underlying theory and principles supporting accrual, I think, being widely recognized. Okay, definitely academics as well as by the profession itself. Okay, by the practitioners. That's why I think accounting is a bit, it's a very theory-laden profession. Okay, so sometimes, in one hand, and to justify certain accounting standards or methods, because they have to balance between the practicality of it, and as well as the concepts and principle behind why certain standards are being developed. Okay, so some students, they said they understand it better why accounting standard behave in certain ways if you take accounting theory. Yeah. All right. Accrual for transparency and improve public financial management. The adoption of accrual accounting should lead to greater transparency for the government entities in using of public funds. Okay, some of the implications of accrual for such purpose are as follows. With accrual accounting, complete financial statement for each government entity will be prepared, including the statement of financial performance, financial position, and cash flow statements. Okay, and then of course your expectations will be, if you compare that, I think as we discussed, the financial statement under cash flow environment, okay, where they just show cash balance as well as fund balance representing those cash balance. Okay, and then of course in terms of performance, okay, the amount of revenue collected as well as expenditures based on cash payments and cash collection. Okay, so a bit limited in that sense when you talk about efficiency, effectiveness in particular. Accrual accounting would enable the account for liabilities and future commitments with greater accuracy. Okay, they would improve transparency in managing public funds, enhance monitoring of liabilities and contingent liabilities such as employee entitlements, environmental obligations, insurance claim, expected losses, and the guarantee schemes, which are not typically recognized in the cash accounting environment. Okay, will receive more attention under accruals. I think that's and not only that, I think with MFRS or IFRS type of standards, okay. So I think there's certain principles or way of doing as compared to the previous standards. Okay, more focus on fair value. Okay, more focus on the economic environments, very dynamics, right? To a certain extent, of course, I mean there are pros and cons, but obviously the standard setters prefer, okay, that's their line of thinking, that the cash flow, okay, of course, that all the assets and liabilities at the end will be reflected in the cash flow, at the same time reflecting the economic environment at that time, okay? Of course, these are my view, right? You can disagree, but at least you must have your own understanding, okay, how certain standards can develop. With IPSAS, the accounting for asset and liabilities at fair value will improve presentation of the government financial standing. Okay, so that's the best practice nowadays. Okay, and even I think if you look at the MFRS, of course, the focus on fair value. Similarly, in the IPSAS, okay, the choice, the options to use fair value. particularly on the physical assets, okay, as well as financial assets. Okay, international IFSAS, okay, scope of standards applicable to all public sector entities, including national governments, local government, and their component governments. Not applicable to government business entities or GLCs. Okay, so because GLCs or business profit-making companies or entities owned by the government, okay, so MFRS or IFRS are there to help them. Okay, so I think we discussed that on this copy of IFSAS. Okay, you can have your copy. Okay. Anyone already downloaded the standards? Anyone? Or yet to do that? Anyone already download your copy?
Not yet, sir.
Oh, not yet, huh? All right, but maybe there are two. One is for Malaysian. You can, yeah, I mean, international student also can also take MPSAS, right? Otherwise, you can use IFSAS if you like. Maybe, but the adoption, I think it's not a blanket adoption. You can see that they adopt in stages. Particularly from IFSAS to MPSAS, okay? And also there are modifications. So certainly, apparently there are modifications. Or maybe new standard being, old standard being replaced with the new standards, okay? So at that point. So these are IFSAS examples. Okay, IFSAS 1 on presentation of financial statements, okay? IFSAS 2, IFSAS 3 on the net surplus or deficit for the period, as well as changes in accounting policies. Okay, IFSAS 6 on consolidated financial statements, right? Construction contracts. Some of these are, what do you call it, unique to government. For instance, okay, they also have revenue from exchange transactions. Okay, and yeah, of course, IFSAS 3, okay, quite unique. For the government. Then they have right, another yeah, if you look at IFSAS 21, impairment of non-cash generating assets. Okay, so there are type of asset which is non-cash generating but can be recognized in the government book. Okay, if you look at IFSAS 23, revenue from non-exchange transactions. Okay, so there are exchange transactions, non-exchange transactions. Okay, so quite like taxation, for instance, it's kind of it's not based on exchange transactions. So for government, for private sector, revenue basically based on exchange transactions. Okay, but in the government, they have this. And even later on, we'll see under PPE, okay, there are more items which is unique, okay, for government in terms of the items to be recognized as well as okay, in itself, okay, the standards. And if you look at IFSAS 24 as well, so presentation of budget information. Okay, so generally in the private sector, they don't share budget information in the financial statements or as part of accounting standards. Okay, because it's considered as internal and confidential, right? But in the case of government, so that is specific standard, basically providing for the reporting of budget information. Okay, I think there are another one or two. Okay, maybe not mentioned here. We'll see later on, right? Because another is concession asset. Concession contracts. Okay, so that's also very unique because government generally giving concessions to the private sector. I think we discussed on the PFI, okay, PPP, right? So that how that all those assets translated into financial statements for the government. Okay, accrual accounting in Malaysian public sector. Any questions so far? Okay, right. Okay, I think we did mention last time where accrual accounting was introduced. Of course, the beginning of that is 2007, but then it was given more emphasis with the previous government. I think previous government means during the Datuk Seri Najib when he introduced a transformation program, and then with the PH government as well, so more emphasis. I think they continue to implement accrual accounting. Okay, so that I think is very very advanced in terms of its implementation. Okay, these are some with a view of in the case of Malaysian government. Provide a more comprehensive and accurate picture of government financial position, enhance government transparency and accountability. Okay, improve government financial management and accounting system through good governance, and thus resulting value for money. Okay, so good governance supported by reports based on accrual accounting. Promote efficiency and effectiveness of the government organizations by providing complete and comprehensive performance report and financial statements. Okay, and provide better guidance for prudent financial management. I mean, these are expected benefits because it's not a full scale yet of the accrual accounting. I think that's why more research needs to be done. Okay, some time to help the government. Even nowadays, just yesterday, I think, yesterday the AG, right? The issue research grants, okay, on this area. Maybe if I can share, just to show you that. Okay. Yes, this one. Tawaran grant is research by AG. Generally, they offer that to academia, to academics. So for all public universities, so they send is research in for financial accounting and financial management of the public sector. So, but it's very tight in terms of the okay. So if you look at this, yeah, just to share a bit. So the area of focus, right? Yeah, the accounting and reporting, financial reporting, management accounting, right? So you can see major topics that we discussed in class is okay, performance measurement, auditing. But at least the first one there is financial accounting and financial accounting and reporting. Okay, is one of the key areas in the research. So this research is by under the AG. Okay, under the AG. Okay, if you want to embark on the research, yeah, I think the grant is 20,000. Somehow you can collaborate with postgraduate students, whatever. Okay. If you need advice, you can advise, no an issue. Right. Okay. So implementation strategy of accrual accounting. Okay. So this is by Malaysian government. So if you look at these items, these are elements to implement the accrual accounting. Okay. One, of course, the adoption of the standards and policies. Okay. They also have to amend law. Obviously, okay. I think not the constitution. So I think constitution is quite general, covering assets and liabilities. But there's a proposed law on the Financial Procedures Act. Okay. But I tried to check, but yet to be there, the law to be passed by the parliament. Maybe it will take some time. So I'm not sure now. I think with this passing of law, it is still pending, then we are not sure when this financial statements based on accrual will be officially published. Okay, so there can be an issue there. Human resource, change management, development of human capital, engagement of accounting officers in accrual accounting implementation. Okay, so the competency of the accountants. I think nowadays, even recently, there was a colloquium by the AG, by the Accountants General. Okay, all their basically, because AG, they send their staff for pursuing postgraduate studies. I think they are promoting both for their staff to continue postgraduate studies as well as taking professional exams. Okay, so I think both are being supported, okay, by AG. So I think the colloquium, I was invited to review one of the papers. So it was on the professional judgment. Okay, and so you can see that they are very serious to make sure that the accountants in AG have the relevant expertise in developing, in promoting, in having the right skill sets for them to be able to provide good financial information based on accrual accounting. Process and technology, definitely technology, accrual accounting. Okay, so there definitely there are need of amendments in terms of code of accounts, chart of accounts, because accrual definitely will be different than chart of accounts under cash environment. Okay, and then the technology, okay, to support basically accounting system, the accounting system to support accrual accounting. But I was told that it was there. It's been there for many years. The accrual accounting software, because government vendor for system is basically very reputable company like SAP. Definitely being engaged. Oracle, SAP. Okay, so big companies to support the government to have a good system. Okay, undertaking gap analysis between cash accounting and accrual, design and develop an accounting system for accrual accounting. Okay, so all these need to be addressed as part of implemented strategy of accrual accounting. So that's no wonder that's why they allocate in 2007 they allocate 100 million to implement this. So it's I think it's quite fair in the sense that government budget is 380 billion per year, right? So that will be translated to all the 380 billion is for the budget. So you can see the expenses is 380 billion. But on top of that, some of them definitely are capital items. And capitalized items, not only what has been budgeted for the year, it's also including all the legacy assets that will only be there in the government, part of the government. So huge exercise. All right, now we move to MPSAS. Okay, so MPSAS, accrual-based accounting standard issued by AG, drawn from IPSAS. Okay, so the agreement was in 2013 with IFAC to adopt MPSAS. The only divergence are when IPSAS contradict with local legislation. Then local legislation shall prevail. These are, like qualification with the implementation of IPSAS. MPSAS is an accounting standard that has been to be observed by the public accounting, public sector accounting entities in Malaysia, other than government business and enterprises. Okay, the GRC. And there is a adoption process. Okay, so even if you can see that there are various entities, I think they also at the end they need approval from IFAC. Okay, the standards that have been adopted. Okay. Okay, there are early research. Okay, under I think if you look at that, there is a department. They call it policy and standards, accounting standard policy. I think one of my friends, I think she's already the head of this unit. Okay, but it just COVID time, so don't have the chance to arrange for talks. But yeah, I think she came last time. What's the name? Sister. Oh, okay. Maybe next time I will mention. Okay, then they have this Government Accounting Standard Advisory Committee. Okay. Lastly, okay, there is a steering committee for accrual to adopt the MPSAS. Okay, right, now we move on to MPSAS 1, Appendix A, with regards to conceptual framework of accrual accounting. Okay, so under MPSAS 1, so fundamental qualitative characteristics, I think these are the same characteristics under conceptual framework in IPSAS. Relevance, materiality, faithful presentation, then enhancing qualitative characteristics, comparability, verifiability, timeliness, and understandability. I think what you understand in accounting theory, okay, all of you taken accounting theory, isn't it? All these conceptual framework we introduced in year 1, part 1, is it?
Yes.
Yes.
In part 1, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I think it's good. It's good they do that. Then you have that mindset or get introduced. It's not easy to understand as well. And in accounting theory will be taught again, isn't it? Been taught again in accounting theory, isn't it?
We're learning it in FA 5, I think.
Oh, 5. Okay, no, you don't call it accounting theory. They call it 5. Consolidation in FA 4, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Generally, after console, then the accounting theory, so they call it FA 5. So our guru there, Dr. Hafiz, Dr. Fatima, okay. And yeah, it turned out to be it's good, accounting theory, because for you to make sense of you sometimes you learn accounting standards, you're not sure why they adopt certain standards, but nevertheless, accounting standard is based on consensus. So in Islam we call it ijma ulama, isn't it? So it's based on ijma. So sometimes some standard also doesn't make sense, so still being adopted. So don't, it won't create frustration. Right, but I think nowadays, yeah, generally, I think, I think it's good. Okay, it's much better, and because they focus on business modeling, okay, business model, I think that's very good. The underlying how they develop the accounting standards, and I think if you look at inventory valuation, if I'm not mistaken, okay, they focus on normal costs. So they bring also management accounting perspective into the standard setting for inventory, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so I think they're very serious on this relevance, faithful presentation, timeliness, right? Okay, these are the MPSAS. As I mentioned, they're being adopted in stages, and including the transition period. Okay, I think have a quick look because some of these standards are okay up to 2016, up to PSAS 34, but now I think they have more financial instruments. Okay. Right. So they have impairments of cash generating asset, intangible asset is there. Related party, agriculture. Okay, so if you look at MPSAS 37, there's a S MPSAS for the agriculture. And yeah, PSAS 33, first time adoption of accrual basis accounting. So this part of to guide on the transition. Okay. And what else is there? Concession, not yet. Okay, so it's for this example. But of course, we can just check on the at the website for the latest standards being introduced or been adopted. Okay, now we move on. PSAS and accounting policy. Okay, to guide for the financial statement. I think generally you understand accounting policies is basically that one in preparing the financial statements. The transition from cash to accrual. In Malaysia, accrual transition is managed by the Accrual Accounting Steering Committee. Then the source of authority based on PSAS 33, right? Then with AG guidelines, I think that one, number 11, 2017. Okay, so the details of this transition. First time adopters shall prepare and present an opening statement of financial position, the date of adoption of PSAS. I think that's the starting point. So we have to develop the opening balance, I think, in a way. So opening statement of financial position, of course, you have to develop opening balance. On the date of adoption of accrual basis, the first time adopter shall apply the requirements of PSAS retrospectively, except if required or otherwise permitted in this PSAS. First time adopter estimates in accordance with PSAS as the date of adoption shall be consistent with estimates made in accordance with the previous base of accounting, unless there is objective evidence that those estimates were inconsistent with the requirement of PSAS. Okay, that relates to estimates, accounting estimates. There are so many accounting estimates. Valuation, okay, for assets, for liabilities, and then accounting policies that relates to estimates. For I think the simple one is depreciation. Okay. Right, assumptions affecting fair presentation and compliance. I think recognition or measurement of the following assets or liabilities, because some of these are taking much longer time to prepare. Investment properties, PPE, is a pension plan, biological asset, agricultural produce, intangible assets, and financial instruments. And then for non-exchange revenue and other borrowing costs. Okay, if you look at the exemptions by FGOM, FGOM is basically Federal Government of Malaysia. These assets and liabilities can be recognized for reporting period within 3 years following the date of adoption. Okay, service concession asset and related liabilities will not be accounted until PSAS 32 is adopted. So this is an example, okay, for exemption. Because why exemption is provided? Because the time taken to prepare for the adoption. If you look at PPE, for instance, okay, the opening balance using accrual accounting, so they must have a clear policy. So what type of asset should the fair value be developed? Okay, because okay, I think what happened in the government in terms of PPE, they have the fixed asset register, right? But the listing of the items, but the cost is not there because the cost is cash. So cash basis is basically all the capital cost is considered as expenditures. Okay, so to trace if the asset is been there for more than 7 years, maybe okay within 7 years because of statute of limitations where the documents need to be kept. Yeah, there's a possibility of documents still there, for reference. But after 7 years, okay, there is no need to maintain the records. But of course, you need to recognize as well. Government definitely, I think the full swing of digital accounting, okay, maybe definitely within these 10 years, right? But what about asset that have only been there for many years? Okay, definitely to trace the source document is quite difficult. Okay, right. We can look at the reason behind why the exemption is given. Leases, contingencies. Okay, look at contingencies. Liability related to relevant asset can be recognized subject to the earlier asset being recognized. or expiry of 3 years following the date of adoption, related party disclosure, disclosure of related party relationship, transactions, and information about key management personnel can be disclosed within 3 years following the date of adoption. So it's just giving, yeah. So why it's been adopted? Yeah, we have to ask AG what's the reason behind. Because related party disclosure is very important. If you look at one of the key areas, if the analysts want to look at the reliability of financial information, okay, some issues, okay, with regards to the financial statements, okay, related party disclosure can give some ideas, all right? It can provide indication, okay? So please don't quote me out of context. Okay, assumptions not affecting fair presentations and compliance. Okay, so look at this. Date at which cost can be determined. Fair value as deemed cost is determined at any date during the 3 years transition period. Okay, number 2 and number 3. Yeah. Measurement of asset acquired through a non-exchange transaction. I think if you look at number 3, there's a specific asset where government received donation, asset being donated, okay, not through sale or through purchase. So they can use fair value, okay, where historical information is not available. But I think these are just a discussion. But I think now the full standard is there, okay, to address this issue. These are during transition. Okay, exemptions not affecting fair presentation and compliance. Okay, you can read this, huh? Right, there are scenario given, in the PSAS, first time adoption. Scenario A, recognition of asset as opening balance on first adoption during transition period. So obviously, to start the accounting based on accrual, so they must have opening balance. So in this case, definitely for opening balance for asset items, liabilities, as well as equity items. Okay. So scenario given, these are in the standards. Total property PPE consisting of 2 separate assets. Asset A and B are recognized as opening balance during the transition period from cash accounting to accrual. Asset A amount to 150,000 is purchased by a responsibility center, financed through a general fund. Okay, so you can see fund accounting is being practiced here. Asset B amount to 75,000 is financed through a government trust account. Okay, so you can see that financed through trust account. So it's based on what kind of fund? Brothers, sisters, through a government trust account. So based on our discussion, what kind of fund is that? Anyone? Restricted, restricted or trust account, restricted fund. Okay, so if you look at this example, right? So how they account, right? These assets. Okay, so can they just pool in the same fund? Okay, or should be presented separately, or should be accounted, but in terms of the corresponding entries. Okay, so is it just being recognized under general fund, or should be reported separately? So these are the issues. Asset A has opening gross balance of 50 and accumulated depreciation of 50,000, and asset B has opening gross balance of 75,000 with accumulated depreciation of 25,000. So how to account? Okay, so you can see there are 2 accounts, general fund and government trust account. So they can clearly they keep separate book for different fund. Okay, so obviously under accrual accounting they apply the AG fund accounting. So debit PPE under general fund get 50,000, okay, with the corresponding accounting code, and then credit accumulated depreciation 50,000, and of course there is a net book value, isn't it? So be credited as accumulated surplus or deficit under the general funds. Okay. I think if you look at this, they use coding. Okay. Maybe in the GL there is coding for separate fund, so that they can prepare later on the financial statements, so that each transaction can be grouped together. Okay, so to present what is there, what is left, okay, for the general fund. But the second asset B, is accounted under trust account. Okay, debit PPE, government trust account, and then credit accumulated depreciation, and then with the accumulated surplus, the fund balance. Okay, general trust account. Okay, the fund balance named government trust account by 50,000. So basically representing the book value, net book value of this asset. Okay, so these are basically, and definitely how they can get the value. Okay, definitely either through historical cost or through fair value. Okay, so evaluate. I think PPE is quite reasonable because they can use valuer, property valuer. Of course, it's not cheap. That's why I think government a bit reluctant sometimes, okay, to value the asset, because sometimes the valuation cost is costly, because you have to engage the expert view, okay, valuers. So is it justify the exercise, okay? So I think for federal government, definitely, because since they are focusing on the full accrual, okay, they will definitely allocate some money for this valuation. I can find out. But for, at the state level or majlis agama level, this can be an issue. Is it worthwhile to spend money for valuation, whereas particularly those assets which do not have commercial value, okay, like wakaf land, for instance, wakaf land for the graveyard. So it's not easy to put value, isn't it? A fair value. So, but is there a need, okay, to value those assets, the graveyard land, for instance, okay? But that's why I think some arguments say, yeah, since there is no commercial value for that, so its nominal value is sufficient enough, okay, to present for the assets. As an example. Any question? Oh, very quiet. To selected MPSAs, okay, of course, I will discuss just highlights that we discuss these standards. Okay, so presentation of financial statement, I think we discussed today quickly. And then revenue from exchange transactions, PPE, revenue from non-exchange transactions, other information, and lastly, service concession. Okay, because we have this arrangement on how this be accounted in the government. But issues like impairments and all that, I think that's one is because it's covered in other financial accounting courses, financial instrument and all that. So it's not the priority areas because it's also, I think, definitely relatively very similar to other courses. Right, MPSAS1, right, reporting entity for government ministries other than government business enterprises. So now I think we would expect that you see that reporting entity is all government ministries. So you can expect every government ministries have their own financial statements, okay? Consolidated financial statements. Because there are so many agencies under the government, under ministries. Okay, I think, see, many of you now, you are expert of certain sectors in the government, healthcare, okay, public transportation. So what else? I think I'm enjoying watching the video that you prepare. Okay. Yeah, some work very hard, okay, to develop the videos. And so if you look at this consolidation, that's why I think in terms of consolidated financial statement, right? The control, because the entity to be consolidated, the parent must have control over the agency. Then I think the word control can be slightly different as compared to the private sector, where of course main control will be shareholding and possibly with other items, accounting policy and others. So these are also related to government. If they present it based on the ministry, because some of the agencies, the ministries are not the shareholder, right? But still the control of the entities are basically by the parent ministry. Then there is a basis for consolidation. Right, and so you can look at this statement of financial position, all the same. Huh? All right, okay, three structure of accounts. So the accounts under consolidated fund, consolidated revenue account, consolidated loan account, and also trust account. Okay, these are based on the standards. Huh? Okay, I think, can you see this? Zoom in. Okay. Yeah, because I take photo of this. Nevertheless, okay, I think roughly you can see current assets, non-current assets, okay, and definitely the items are very specific for government, recoverable from receivable. Okay, and then they have also receivable dated because they have investment in control entities, investment in associates, PPE. But look at the equity side. Okay, they have capital contributed by other government entities. Then they have surplus and deficit. They have reserve. Okay, and there's also item government trust account. So they put as a separate item. Okay, between general unreserved general fund. Okay, as well as for the restricted account or the restricted fund. So separately identified in the equity side. But then, of course, there was an issue of pooling the assets and liabilities. So in terms of presentation, but I think, so how they go about it, so what is the best way? So all these are accounting policies. Should they keep in separate GL? Because they keep separate accounts for specific funds. These are options that they can have. All right. Okay. So equity section. Okay. This one is based on the recent manual 2015, because the AG they issue accrual accounting manual, right? So with that, okay, there is also three items here: accumulated surplus based on for general fund, accumulated surplus deficit based on for government trust account and other reserve. So they clearly separate general fund and trust fund, okay, or they call it trust account and other reserve. Because obviously for unrestricted reserve, so the leadership have more flexibility to use them, because the dynamic nature of the environment and the needs of the country, then through the general fund. Whereas trust fund, as we understood, it's restricted. Okay, these are financial performance, revenue, expenses, and then at the end, of course, they don't have profits. They have surplus. Zoom in, yeah. Okay, so take note of that. Surplus and deficit for the period. Okay. Impairment, yeah, if you can see that, impairment of PPE, all these are, and transfer, you see, a transfer, they consider it as expenditure, whereas in this SOP, they want to have this as a separate item. Whereas in case of Malaysian standard, they just consider that as revenue and then as expenses, okay? And nevertheless, it's clearly mentioned about transfer. Okay, but they consider that as expenses, whereas the best practice say, okay, as a separate caption. Okay, but these are the choice. Accounting policy for each country, they have reason behind. Or simply it is a direct adoption of the I factor. Right, so you can see there's also an option of attributable to controlling entity and minority interest. So with this caption, definitely these are consolidated financial statements, statement of financial performance. Okay. Oops. If I when I look at the what do you call it, the financial position, okay, with this investment in subsidiaries or control entities, it looks like these are for non-consolidated financial statement. When they give example for the presentation of financial performance, they have this minority interest. Definitely, these are consolidated financial statements. Anyway, it's just it's a format, isn't it? For as a guidance. Okay. Right. It can be if you look at the expenses, they can be by function in terms of financial performance. So you go. I think let me just quick. Yeah, look at this. By function, general public service, defense, public order, education, health. I think it's quite meaningful in this kind of categories. So you can see clearly what will be the budget for all these main sectors of the in the government. Okay, and then they can also by nature, wages and grants. So these are not so much. Okay, I think it take a lot of time. And pieces related to structure and size, okay, 34, 35. I think these are recent. There was a changes for this. But anyway, just take note. Okay, opening balance strategy, challenges faced. Okay, key challenges of data collection because during the transition, they have to plan for opening balance. Okay, identification of assets, data availability. Okay, as I mentioned, okay, with the assets been there for many years, then the source documents is no longer under the statute of limitations. Then it's not easy to find the information. Measurement and valuation of assets. Okay, they have to develop the relevant policy. That's one. The other is sometimes the asset is unique. Okay, so there is no comparison in the market. Then can create challenges. I think for our discussion, I think one of the government asset is Tugu Negara. You know Tugu Negara? Tugu Negara.
Yes.
Yes.
Tugu Negara. Okay. Tugu. Maybe I ask this question. What is the fair value of Tugu Negara? Okay. So I think we can get an idea how difficult it is because it's the only asset in the country, right? Okay, that can create challenges. Okay, number of stakeholders involved. Okay, legal and beneficial owner of assets, right? Can be is highlighted as a challenges. Existence of assets. Okay, maybe it is in the fixed asset register, but the asset is no longer there. Right, understatement of assets, same assets taken by few parties, overlapping. This can also be happen. Same building, who is basically, this particularly possibly relevant for assets at the state level. Where same asset, okay, I think the example given was like that. It's like a building, the building is owned by federal, but the land is by the state. Okay, so that's how they go about it. I think in PPE they classified it differently, isn't it? The cost of land and the cost of the buildings. Okay, so but in a way that if there is overlapping, that different parties claim for the same asset. And failure in obtaining the correct opening balance in time for the transitional period. These are challenges. Okay. Challenges doesn't mean that it's failing, isn't it? It's moving forward. Okay. And if they are not complete, then they can just provide disclosure. Right. The important thing is not to stop questioning. By Albert Einstein. Okay. Please do not stop questioning, but provide answer as well. Don't just question but no answer. But should start with answering. Okay, any questions? Okay, there are one question there. Do GLC like 1MDB use MPSAS? GLC use MFRS. Okay. Even subsidiaries of the state government, they use MFRS. Okay. Statutory bodies, they have option. Okay, they can use MFRS, they can use MPSAS. But if there are commercial, they have commercial operation. Okay, I think MFRS is better, right? If they have commercial. But otherwise, they have that option for statutory bodies. But for government entities like ministries, departments, okay, they will use MPSAS. Okay, any other question? All right. If no other question, I will end this session with stop sharing first. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.